Joining me this morning to talk about that work again with the Poor People's Army is someone we've had before joining us, and someone I'm happy to have join us as often as possible, and that is, of course, Cheri Honkala of the Poor People's Army. And I want to say, Cheri, off the top, I want to encourage people to support by getting the shirt that you have, that you're wearing. And I'm letting people know that what we're going to do, because I have a shirt for me coming. So this one here, what I'm going to try to do is a little promotional campaign. I will send this shirt for free. It's an extra large. I'll send it for free to the first subscribed commenter on this video once it crosses the 1% of our subscriber base viewership. That is 1,700 views, 500 likes. The first one to comment once we hit that threshold, who's a subscriber, can get this, is eligible, and can get this free shirt. And if extra large isn't your size, I'll buy you one in your size at that point. So, Cheri, good morning. Thank you for joining us. Welcome to the program.
Good morning. Those subscribers get busy and get in line, because these shirts are turning out to be the hot thing that's out here. So
quickly. Oh, sorry. Yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, I just appreciate you. I appreciate being here, being on your show this morning.
No, it's a pleasure. So before we get into whatever brings you here specifically, I just want to remind people of the Poor People's Army. The link will be in the show description very quickly. We are a nonviolent army of poor and working people led by poor people, fighting for our survival by any means necessary. poorpeoplesarmy.com for more information. So Cheri, what specifically brings you here this morning? What's going on? What's the latest?
Well, the latest is that we had a case in federal court. We're the only people in the country with, other organizations and that kind of stuff that were taking the United States government, housing and urban development, to court for a right to housing. And that was thrown out of federal court. It's not completely bad because the judge that threw it out basically gave us a roadmap to go back into federal court. So we're going to be going back into federal court. We have, as you know, and as some of your listeners might know, we have over 50 families and properties here in Philadelphia. Nobody knows about it unless you're on this wonderful program. Because in Philadelphia, there's the 10 abandoned houses for every homeless person. And we had guerrilla cartographers that basically mapped out most of the country. We have people now that have been doing Zooms and meeting with us in person in many different cities across the country, learning how to do housing takeovers and trying to instill a zero tolerance on homelessness. But the stuff is getting very vicious. And the reason why it's getting really vicious is, we have the trolls and the bad guys that make things, back in the day, we had break the whiteout in the media, try to lift up the voices of folks that were being cut out of the media. And now we have a different kind of whiteout that's happening in the country, as you know, which is, the algorithm and, people that just have a bigger drum are able to drum out the voices and the necessary stories that are happening. And, whatever happens to be the latest on CNN is what people are listening to. So we're in a vulnerable situation right now because, at any given moment, those families can be moved on in those houses. Our lead plaintiff that the courts threw out that particular case is a grandmother who is living with her daughter and her grandchildren in a takeover house. They were put in there during the height of COVID, after their house had burned to the ground from a house fire. And the city of Philadelphia put them up in a hotel for about a week and then kicked them to the curb. So that was like about 6 people that were living in that particular household. Um, and so you know, yesterday she was attending her mother's funeral, and now she's having to worry about the federal marshals coming in and kicking her out of that house. And so we think it's just really important that your listeners and folks around the country that are excited by, nicer weather and going outside and not dealing with the pandemic as much, that there's a lot of vulnerable families here in Philadelphia and in other parts of the country. And we just really need listeners to tune in, to be watching, our Facebook pages, and to be, watching our website. And the other thing that we're trying to do is lift up the drama that we're dealing with simultaneously, which is here in Kensington. We're like ground zero for the entire country in terms of people that have been lost due to the opiate crisis. So if anybody wants to Google, Kensington opiate crisis or Kensington, um, and drugs or whatever, people can see firsthand just how devastating it is. Um, I've had 7 recent deaths um, due to the opiate crisis. And, it's really important that people understand that it's not a symbolic thing that we call ourselves a poor people's army. Our kids and everybody around here are really dealing with post-traumatic stress disorder and just really living under very difficult conditions right now.
No, right on. I can only imagine. And just working backwards from what you were just saying there, I'm continuing to look at in my own separate work around, even what I mentioned at the top about buying power, this connection between the McKinsey and Company global marketing agency, in promoting the mythology of buying power, but also in promoting historically opioids, and working with Purdue Pharma in particular, in protecting and promoting their pushing of that of oxy on so many people. So yeah, a lot of people are victimized, in part encouraged by a psychological warfare campaign that then encourages a very physical struggle with the addiction. But one thing I wanted to just clarify with you, if I could, very quickly, when you said, I thought I heard you say there are 10 homes per homeless people available in the city or the state of Pennsylvania, or was that a nationwide figure?
No, in
Or did I mishear that?
the city of Philadelphia, there's 10 abandoned houses for every homeless person. So if we wanted to end homelessness, we could. And we've, thanks to the cartographers, Elsa Noterman, who is, now in the UK, and, trying to lift up the reality that homelessness could be ended in the United States, that it's just a question of greed. And this is, definitely not an issue of scarcity, that there's enough housing in every single city across the country. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but and what I can do, Jared, is I can, send it over to you, but it's definitely worth looking into, in every single city across this country. There's more abandoned properties and, that have just been, are either, constantly in the business of being slated for demolition or being taken by developers and speculators. And the properties, 10% of all HUD properties are supposed to first go to the homeless. And that's also not happening in this country. They figure out a way to get it to private owners. And so, again, we just have to really educate ourselves and understand that this is not about like we need to, develop some more affordable housing kind of thing. We don't have the political will in this country. If we decided tomorrow we wanted to end homelessness, we could end homelessness. And just like they can build luxury units overnight, we could flip and here in Philadelphia with just $200-300 a property. That's what we've been doing, is making these properties livable.
So just if I can just very quickly, guerrilla cartographers, I'm new to this work and this phrase, but it sounds dope. And at least part of what you're saying that they do is find the locations of abandoned homes in specific locations and identify them for people doing the work such as yourself. And
Yeah,
then I'm assuming they have many other tasks as well, but that sounds pretty dope.
these are amazing professors like yourself, that went into mapping and geography, and then approached us and said, is there anything that would be useful for your work? And so about 1.5 years ago, we said yes. We want you to take on this national group of cartographers. We want you to take on the challenge of mapping the properties across the country, because we had known for many years that there's more abandoned properties than there are homeless people, but we needed professionals to prove it for us. And so that's what these experts did. And they have put together a study that we can also make available. We can probably also make it available on our website. But we're telling folks that we're holding educationals every day across this country. If people want to end homelessness, we're asking them to jump on board to become a part of the new Underground Railroad, that there's no reason for people to be dying out here. And we could be collectively taking back the housing for people across this country, and housing men, women, and children again if we wanted to. We don't have to go into the business of building tiny houses or setting up nicer and sexier homeless encampments, all of those kinds of things. There's enough to go around. We just need to get organized. And if people need mental health or drug and alcohol services, excuse me, they should be made available while they're living in housing.
Right on. All right. By the way, everybody, my math is wrong, but from the top of the show, 1% of 17,400 is 740. So for that low amount of views, if we get 250 likes, the first comment from a subscriber will get Poor People's Army t-shirt, extra large, or whatever size you want. I'll send you whatever you want. I don't care. But so I'll reduce it. I'll keep the percentage the same. But it really should be 1,740 and 10% to get the views. But let's just keep it at 1%. Like I said, make it easier for somebody to get the shirt and help support this work that Cheri and others at the Poor People's Army are doing. Cheri, like I said, forgive me for not having more in preparation, but is there anything else you wanted us to get to? I'm happy to rap about whatever.
Yeah, I think it's really, there's a reason I wove in the opiate crisis besides just, going to 7 recent funerals. I got another one on Monday.
Mm,
Um and one of those is my son's father, my son's
mm.
Guillermo.
I'm sorry
Uh
to hear that.
yeah, uh I mean, they're just I mean, the system makes it difficult for people to live out here. And then when he was a person that he had AIDS, and you would think, at the height of everybody talking about the pandemic and all of this. And by the way, I mean, those 7 funerals that I talked about, those were not from COVID. And actually, most of the people, has been other issues. So it's really interesting, and I had to weave in this issue of the opiate crisis because, like my son Guillermo's father, he struggled with getting the necessary services, not just for his AIDS, but being chronically homeless for so many years, because he was trying very desperately to stay clean. And they were warehousing him like other many millions of men of color. One, they generally don't have access to any kind of shelter. And if they do, the shelters are generally similar to the prison conditions, where they have to sleep single file in a shelter during the height of COVID, regardless of your serious chronic medical issues. And if you're trying to stay clean, many of our shelters in this country are infested with drugs. Um, and so, many of them, don't have a chance. And I would love to see someday an audit happen, particularly, all the money that's actually not all the money, but the little bit of that's being won from these lawsuits in regards to big pharma. They're not making it to the families. Um, in here in Kensington, even though we're like ground zero for the entire country with the opiate crisis, and kids are losing one or two parents, there's not even one free music program, not one free basketball, any kind of sports program. So that should really call into question how serious the problem is. I traveled to Africa and participated in the World Court of Women's court, where large numbers of people had one or two parents that were dying of AIDS. And they had a gajillion different programs. They had summer camps for kids. They had um, uh, different cultural programs, that kind of stuff. And here in Kensington and in this wealthy country, there is nothing. So, we have to really ask, where is all this drug money going under this, drug crisis that's happening? We know that it started with crack cocaine and just the destruction of predominantly African American families' lives, and in the absolute incarceration. And then the opiate crisis is turning out to be, um, now more of a multiracial, um, uh, equality of misery, where people are just not needed anymore. And so, uh, in this neighborhood, it's looking like straight genocide, no matter who you are.
Mm, mm. All right. So, in just the last few minutes that we have, one of the calls, of course, the simple call through selfishly through our channel is help this video once it gets put out there separately from the stream get to 740 views, which is really pretty low, but 740 views, 250 likes. I'll send you this free Poor People's Army t-shirt as a small show of support and solidarity. We, of course, putting the link to the website at poorpeoplesarmy.com in the show description, where you can find out more about the Poor People's Army and ways to support. Is there anything else in particular you would like to point people to in terms of behavior or ways to learn or whatever?
Yes,
Going forward.
we have Zoom educationals on Monday nights. People are more than welcome to sign up and learn more about the Poor People's Army and get involved. If you're an artist, in September, we have a National People's Fest. We're trying to get people to align with a movement that's independent of corporations and banks. So if you're an artist out there and you want to perform your spoken word or music or whatever, we have a big event in September. And then if you're here locally in Philadelphia on Saturday, we have a Porch Fest. And we have several different bands that will be playing from different members' front porches. And we'll be out there playing music and selling t-shirts. And we're also collecting as many canned goods as possible and trying to figure out how to feed, clothe, and house as many people as possible as we build this path to a different kind of world for all of us to live in.
Right on. Well, Cheri Honkala, thank you very much again for coming through. I love the way this worked out. So just know going forward, it's always good to do it this way. Just hit us up whenever we can help out and get the word out, or set up something more extensive in terms of a discussion with you and your crew. Please, everybody, support the Poor People's Army, poorpeoplesarmy.com. And yeah, add this to the roster of things that we get involved with. So, Cheri, thanks again. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Yeah,
we really appreciate you. Well, love the program. People put out those likes.
Get the likes. Just 250, 740 views. Get your free t-shirt and be well on your way to supporting the Poor People's Army. All right, Cheri. Thanks again.
Have a great day.
Okay. All right, you too. Peace.